This video is brought to you by Blessed Be God Boutique, maker of Catholic fashionable apparel, handmade accessories, and more.
Summer and fall months are Fatima season, even if you're seeing this on a date that's not the 13th of July or 13th of the month. But we're in Fatima season. The topic of Fatima is much more prevalent on social media and in personal talk among Catholics in general for a lot of reasons, including things going on in the church. So it's always interesting when we find a bit of a lore about the Fatima message from very, very solid sources, unimpeachably solid sources, like today. Cardinal Ottaviani was the prefect for the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith in the 50s and the 1960s. He was the cardinal who, at the Second Vatican Council, tried to defend Catholic orthodoxy on a number of topics and had his microphone shut off by some of the radicals at the council, who basically shouted him down and then laughed at him once they silenced him. He was a defender of Catholic orthodoxy. That was what his job was. He is the author of the famous the Ottaviani intervention, where he and a few other prelates managed to get the new Mass to at least have the identifiable and actually valid consecration prayers in the consecration, because the original draft was not going to have that. It's all a matter of public record. This is factual history of the church. Cardinal Ottaviani was one of the heroes of that period. And we have an address from him on Fatima today that will be a little eye-opening, where he talks about parts of the Fatima message that we don't hear often spoken about much in our time. So we turn now to Cardinal Ottaviani for the 50th anniversary of the Fatima apparitions. If the topic is a secret, how would I be able to reveal it? At any rate, I will address some questions that concern the secret of Fatima. The first time that I was in Fatima was in 1955. As I climbed the slope that would take me to the Cova de Iria, I was already edified by the piety, the spirit of sacrifice and prayer which so many children of the people made proof of in climbing the slope and carrying food and all that they needed to pass the night commemorating the event of October 13th, 1917. When I arrived up there at the Cova de Iria, it seemed to me that I was entering my mother's house. I seemed to hear my mother say to me, "Prayer, penance." All these good people, the thousands upon thousands of people who passed the night outside praying and singing and praying, while the glow of thousands of candles lit up the large square in front of the basilica. All these people truly gave me the impression that they understood well the spirit of the Fatima message. The Most Holy Virgin, while setting her virginal foot on the land of the Cova de Iria, which she thereby sanctified, confided 3 messages to little Lucia. One concerned Lucia's most intimate familial sentiments, the prediction that her little brother Francisco and her little sister Jacinta would soon fly away to heaven. The prophecy was realized soon after. In the basilica that was built in the Cova de Iria, there is seen on the right and left of the high altar the tombstones under which the mortal remains of Jacinta and Francisco await the glorious day of the resurrection, while their souls are blessed in heaven. When I asked Lucia what she wanted me to say from her to the Holy Father, her sentiment moved me. Thinking of her little brother and sister, she said, "Say to the Pope that he might advance rapidly the cause of their beatification." We hope that the wish of Lucia will be fulfilled as soon as possible. There I was saying in the Cova de Iria, it feels like being in the house of one's mother. It is as if we hear the voice of our mother who repeats to us, "Prayer and penance." The world has lent its ear to the message of Lucia. In this message there was the private aspect concerning her brother and sister. There was the part concerning the whole world. It invited the entire world to prayer and penance. There was finally the third part of those things confided by the Holy Virgin, and she confided those things to her, not for her, Lucia, nor for the world, at least for the moment, but for the Vicar of Christ. And Lucia has kept the secret. She has not spoken, though this does not mean we did not try to make her speak. Yes, secrets of Fatima circulated that are attributed to her. Do not believe them. Lucia has kept the secret. Also, what did Lucia do to obey the Most Holy Virgin? She wrote on a sheet of paper in Portuguese what the Holy Virgin had asked her to tell the Holy Father. The message was not to be opened before 1960. I asked Lucia, "Why this date?" And she replied to me, because then it will appear mas claro, more clear. This is what makes me think that the message was of a prophetic tone, precisely because the prophecies, as seen in sacred scripture, are covered in a veil of mystery. They are not generally expressed in a manifest, clear language that is comprehensible to the whole world. Exegetes are today still interpreting the Old Testament prophecies. And what do we say, for example, of the prophecies contained in the Apocalypse? In 1960, Lucia said, "The message will appear more clear." The envelope containing the Secret of Fatima was given closed to the Bishop of Lyra, and although Lucia said he could, the bishop did not want to read it. He wanted to respect the secret out of regard for the Holy Father. He gave it to the Apostolic Nuncio, then Monsignor Cento, today Cardinal and present here, who faithfully transmitted it to the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, as he had been asked. This was to avoid the possibility that something so delicate and destined not to be given for public consumption should come, for whatever reason, even fortuitous, into foreign hands. The secret then arrived at the congregation, always closed, and given to John the 23rd. The Pope opened the envelope and read it. Although the text is written in Portuguese, the Pope subsequently told me that he had understood it entirely, that he himself put the secret in another envelope, sealed it, and put it in one of those archives which are like a deep well, black to the bottom of which the papers fall and people see nothing. It is therefore difficult to say where the secret of Fatima is now to be found. However, what is important, what needs to be imparted to the world, is that which is contained in the public message, which has become universal, has spread throughout the world, and, thanks be to God, accepted with intention to the entire world. Now it is another thing to know if the world has put the message, into practice according to the desires of the Most Holy Virgin, who has exhorted us to prayer and penance to avoid the foreseen sanctions in the divine book of Providence for a world that fits so badly with the gifts of the Lord's grace. You can imagine how many journalists and good priests who had the desire to write something on the Secret of Fatima came to tempt Lucia, but she was truly exemplary. She did not speak. Do not believe those who say that they have heard this or that from Lucia. I, who had the grace and gift to read the text of the secret, though I too am secretive because I am bound by secrecy, I can say that all that is spread. A few days ago, a provincial newspaper spoke of the Secret of Fatima and gave the text. You can be quite sure that the real secret is kept in such a way that a person cannot see it. There is nothing else to do than to stick with what is published. The public message of Fatima is what matters. The secret is important for the Holy Father, to whom it was destined. It is he who was a recipient of the secret. If the recipient of the secret has not decided to say, "It is time to reveal it to the world," then we must stick to his wisdom, who has wanted it kept secret. But what matters, as I said, is that we may know how to conform our life, our actions, and our activities to the spirit of the public message. This is because Lucia was charged not only to transmit to the Pope the secret message, but also to make known throughout the world the public message, which can be summed up in these two words, prayer and penance. The Holy Virgin had already said these two words in Lourdes. Today, as we commemorate the feast of the apparition of the Most Holy Virgin in Lourdes, we need to connect these two expressions of the goodness of Mary, who came down from heaven and put her virginal foot on the earth to sanctify it, and also to guide it towards better paths. We must seek to ensure that the message of Fatima has the effects for which it was addressed to the world, by our actions, our prayers, our examples, by all the Christian virtues that we must practice, especially by prayer and penance. It was also underlined that the connection between the message of Fatima and the conditions of the Church in certain regions where she felt the weight of persecutions, where people fight against religion. This is the message here. In the public message, first, there is also the message of hope, of conversion, and this too can be hastened by the prayers of all those who have devotion to Our Lady of Fatima. Yes, on this day where we celebrate a Marian feast, that of the apparition of Lourdes, we must turn to the Immaculate One who appeared in Fatima as in Lourdes, so that she gave to the world consolation to see realized the wishes that are made in the heart, in the spirit, in the prayers, and the soul of every Christian. It is quite true that persecution still exists. There are still some countries that are under the heel of the persecutor, the despot. There are some regions that are annihilated, scattered with scaffolds, the cross, and prisons that are sanctified by many martyrs. But we must hope. Already certain signs, the dawn of new situations, one might say, are beginning to emerge. Maybe I'm optimistic, but it seems to me that the Most Holy Virgin inspires us to have confidence. If she came down from heaven, if she sanctified by her virginal foot the land of France and Portugal, as well as so many other lands where she came down and appeared, then she also did it to encourage us. It is true, however, as seen in many other prophecies. Because I imagine that the message of Fatima has a tone of prophecy, since Lucia said that in 1960 it would appear more clear, that there is a sign that is sort of veiled. It is not a language that is quite manifest and clear. We thus hope, as I said, that the signs that were given are in conformity with this hope that one can get from the message of Fatima. The Virgin also certainly appeared to tell us that we may have to suffer, as indeed she had predicted the sufferings of the war, to which all of us were witnesses and victims. She also came into the world to give us hope. She is the mother of confidence. We all know to invoke her as the reason for our hope and confidence. Well, since she gives us that hope, let us pray that she obtains for us what we all desire, what we all have at heart, namely that the reign of Christ may come and the peace of Christ. There are already in certain countries telltale signs that are like clues of evolution, like signs of success of this ecumenism that always brings peoples closer together in a fraternal manner, including those who are not Catholics but are rightly proud to bear the name of Christians. Among these signs there is the way everything that the Pope does for peace is welcomed. I will naturally keep the necessary confidentiality, but just yesterday I was told that the new steps were taken over the past few days to facilitate the solution to the Vietnam conflict. If, therefore, so many signs are given to us that allow us to hope that on this 50th anniversary of the events of Fatima, the Holy Virgin will manifest in some way her kindness for her children, that she will give some hope to the Christian world, then we must say, let us welcome this omen of the Holy Virgin. Let us hasten things by our prayers. May we then listen to what the Holy Virgin is telling us from Fatima. Lift up your heads, for your redemption is at hand. And our response brings forth like a cry, Fiat, Fiat, let it be. And that was Cardinal Ottaviani, who was the prefect for the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, reminding us of what the most important part of the Fatima message is. If you desire to have the Fatima message made public, as it was commanded to be, then first we must do our part. Let's keep the first Saturday's devotion. And I'm telling you this now at this late part of the month of July so that you have time to plan if you've never done the first Fast Saturday's devotion. You keep the 5 first Saturdays. I've done multiple videos on this channel in the past. There are things you're expected to do when you keep the 5 first Saturdays devotion, but it's 5 consecutive first Saturdays. You go to Mass. I would suggest a traditional Mass, not because of my biases towards the traditional Mass. It's just that I have never seen a ordinary form Mass offered in continuity with the 5 first Saturdays. Typically, a first Saturday's Mass is offered by the priest in conformity to the desires and requests of Our Lady of Fatima. And I've never seen a Saturday Vigil Mass or a Saturday Mass offered in such way. But you do other things too. But you do it for 5 consecutive Saturdays. I've got videos on this channel for it. That in our lives we seek sanctity. We oppose errors and we spread the gospel. We live as saints. It's worth noting that Cardinal Ottaviani did not at all question what the Pope of 1960, John the 23rd, did by not revealing the third secret. It's interesting that this had happened 2 years before the Ottaviani intervention. And I have to wonder, they'll report on to you, maybe for you next month, those who have read the third secret in the presence of popes have said that the third secret, they all say this, details an apostasy from the top of the church, that it details an evil council that promulgates an evil mass. Wonder what he had to think about that in the 70s when he was retired, watching the chaos in the aftermath of the council really accelerated. Curious what you think about this? Let me know in the comments, please. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't. It certainly helps. So does sharing this on social media. That helps too. And as always, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.